The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Greetings and welcome back, everyone. It's a fresh, cracked episode of TAC. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, here as always with Willie Dills Gregory. How you doing, dude?
I'm fantastic. Ready to talk about a lot of wild Hearthstone today. It's going to be a wild episode.
It's going to be wild because we have a special guest today. Jocelyn, sorry, not Jocelyn Moffat.
Jocelyn, she is no longer Jocelyn Moffat. Still Joss Plays. But.
Yeah, still Joss Plays on Twitter, but Jocelyn, new last name acquired because she just got married and her wedding was a ton of fun, is out celebrating the fact that she just got married, so congratulations to her. But that's okay. In her stead, joining us, a special guest for this week, going to talk all things wild, Saucy Mailman from the Into the Wild podcast.
How are you gentlemen doing today?
We're great, man. We're really excited to have you because we've been talking about doing a wild focused show for a long time. We tend to just be more of a general Hearthstone show, right? So wild comes up. But I will preface the whole show by saying I know Garrett doesn't play a lot of wild, but has dipped his toe in quite often. I think Jocelyn doesn't play a lot, but she hung out with me last month on the final day of the season while I tried to crack that elusive top 100 legend for the Wild Open tournament, which I unfortunately did not do. But I do play quite a bit of Wild, but I'm more of a memester than anything else. So it's nice to have you on, someone who actually knows about the Wild meta and understands what the hell is going on over there.
Yeah. And I've heard Joss talk about, she'll defend Wild whenever we're talking about like balance changes on here. She'll talk about like, Baku and Gin and Wild and, Barnes and those sort of things.
Yeah, we were actually talking in the pre-show about Baku and Gen, and rotating them to the Hall of Fame doesn't really seem like the right thing to do because they'll just exist forever there. And
they don't ever go away.
Yeah,
I'd be all right if they just went away. Period.
I'm not opposed to that either.
Yeah.
Sounds decent to me. So tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know you do the Into the Wild Hearthstone podcast, and as well as the Geek Aid podcast. What else do you do?
Yeah, so I only play Wild, so I haven't played Standard. I used to play Standard, but it's been probably about a year or so since I played any Standard. So Wild exclusive. I stream a whole bunch, and I run the End of the Wild podcast, and it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing a bunch of crazy, degenerate things in Wild, and having a good time.
Would you consider yourself a tryhard or more of a just like Dane style or Slizzle style? I guess I should say.
So I'm definitely far from a tryhard. I never really care about my rank or like how well I do. I like to play decks that are fun, or at least that I'm having fun playing. I usually play control decks. I love Reno. So I play a lot of Reno everything. But I like to win games, but I don't really care if I'm losing. We'll queue up some stupid Shutterwalk, no win condition decks, and we'll do dumb stuff from time to time. But I don't ever like trying to grind for top 10 ladder or anything like that.
I'm not used to hearing Shutterwalk and no win condition mentioned in the same sentence. I'm perplexed.
Yeah, you can do that. You can just Shutterwalk just to Shutterwalk.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird the Shutterwalk, you just fill their hand with bananas and Loatheb them 100,000 times and then just sit there. That's a deck in Wild that people play.
Yep. So before we get into we'll talk a little bit more in depth about this, but I know last month was an interesting month in Wild because there was a reason to try hard.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the overall feeling like on the ladder for you, and how did you do? Did you try for top 100?
So I didn't try for top 100. I'm not really a tournament player. I don't really enjoy tournaments that much, so I wasn't really trying super hard. I was trying to make even Dragon Warrior a thing. It's
That
okay.
seems totally like a thing. Yeah.
It's okay, but that's not necessarily your top 100 ladder finish deck. So I ended at like 230 or something.
Oh, nice.
But I never really made a conscious effort to like be up the top. I really liked how the ladder was. Something we were talking about a bunch in the Wild community is how having this influx of standard players coming in really shaped it kind of like evolved the meta quicker than it normally does in Wild. Because in Wild, we don't get as much coverage. There's not as many people playing it, obviously, so decks don't really evolve as quickly. So
Sure.
getting people's, like, a lot of people were bringing standard decks, taking them into Wild and just putting a Wild touch on it. So we were getting a bunch of different decks that we probably wouldn't have gotten, and that kind of evolved and shaped the meta quite a bit. And it was a blast. The joke was every time we would talk about here's 3 good decks to ladder with this week on the end of the Wild, it'd be like, as we put out that show, the meta would completely shift and those 3 decks would suck. And so people are like, hey, you told us that even Warlock's good right now. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not anymore. Sorry.
So it's
that
changing.
was the struggle I had on the last day. Is I had no handle on what was good anymore, because that final day was the Wild friggin' West, man.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was playing, and I was just jumping around decks trying to figure it out, trying to see what was good. But the variety I was running into was so wide, it just didn't seem like anything was going to actually stick, like a high win rate for me.
Yeah, it was definitely. It was a good time though. Like, I appreciated it, and just I enjoy change, and it does get like, that's one of the biggest complaints people have about Wild is that the meta doesn't shift as much because the decks that are good just stay good. Like Reno Warlock, it's a good deck. You can change 1 or 2 cards, it's still going to be good. But it was cool just seeing, people bringing in like Cloning Gallery Priest and a whole slew of hunters we hadn't seen, and a bunch of aggro paladin.
I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, it's really solid. So it's cool just seeing all these new decks.
I actually think you guys talked about this on the last episode too, like Hakar Mill Druid.
Yeah,
Mill
Druid is really strong right now. Actually, that deck is crazy.
Oh, I don't know if I could live in a world where any mill deck is legit.
Like a literal top tier deck.
Yeah.
It's funny because in Wild for a long time, Kingsbane Mill Rogue lived on, right? Yep. And now with the nerf to Kingsbane, you basically have to go with the aggro pirate version because you just have to kill them. Yep. You don't have time to sit there and mill the whole deck anymore. But I think you're right. Like, I saw a ton of evolution in the Wild meta, whereas it seemed like over the entirety of 2018 almost, it was just kind of, big priest or whatever combo druid is going on right now, or some sort of pirate warrior or some sort of aggro odd rogue, odd paladin. Like, it didn't really move much past that. And I started to see all sorts of weird, interesting things. And when you sent me that Master's Call Hunter, I looked at it and I said, well, where are the wild cards in this? And I was like, oh yeah, Alley Cat, Quick Shot, okay, Kindly Grandmother, I see. These cards do make this deck better, but overall it's really all about Master's Call filling your hand up with minions that work well together. And that's a strategy that works in Standard.
Yeah, exactly. It turns out, when you give an aggressive deck a way to draw 3 cards for 3 mana, like, it's really strong.
Pretty good. Pretty freaking good. Yeah.
So as far as, finding decks, maybe while everyone's trying to qualify for the Wild Open isn't the best time to ask this question, but when things are a little more stable and normal, what resources do you use? Because, talking about how hard it can be to even find decks. I mean, you go to a resource that standard players are used to using, like HS Replay, and you go to the meta section, there's not even a Wild option. You have to go to decks, and they're not even archetyped there. They're just Druid.
Yeah, just
Druid. Like, I don't
know.
I guess I'll try this Druid.
Yeah.
What kind of Druid is it? Well, obviously it's Druid. Crazy.
It's a Druid.
It's funny. Like, it is harder to find, like you said, like, it's hard for Wild because if you go to a website like Hearthpwn or whatever, a lot of the Wild decks you find are just like, hey, I played this deck and it was really good from rank 25 to 23.
Sure.
So it's just people like, I tried this thing and it totally works. And you look at it, you're like, there's no way that deck works at all.
Yeah.
a lot of Discord servers are good. Jumping around to other, I usually get most of my deck lists from other streamers. I'll just be like, hey, what are you playing? Like, here's stuff I'm playing. And just kind of like, it's a lot more community oriented and community focused. Just because there are less players, you kind of get to know each other a little better, and you can just like shoot people a message. Hey, I want to play, what's a good aggressive deck to play right now?
But if you're not plugged into the community, what would you recommend? Because that's, I think, if you're looking at it from the outside right now, and you're like, I want to play Wild, I'm not plugged in. It seems daunting. It almost can feel like getting into Magic in a way where you're like, there's so many cards I need and so many things that I have to do to get in here. And it's like that jumping off point can be difficult. Like I use the Wild Tempo Storm thing a lot.
Yeah. Tempo Storm, they've been pretty good lately. They've brought on a few other Wild people to be like Wild content creators, so they've been a little better at it. The Priest deck we'll talk about later that I brought over, it's a evolved version of one of those decks. There's a couple good YouTube channels. Slizzle466, he puts out it's like seems like every week he'll put out here's the like top decks that I see to ladder with, and those are a really good resource as well. I'm pretty sure the Versus their meta report, it's usually pretty good as well.
And you had the guy you had on your show this week, doesn't he do like a YouTube thing as well?
Yeah, Raffle HS, he puts out a lot of good stuff. Another good, if you're looking just for people to look up for decks and stuff, they tweet a lot. Get Meowth, if you're familiar. He puts out a lot of really good deck lists as well.
And Reno Jackson, I follow him on Twitter, and I check out his decks as well. But yeah, like I found it hard to look for refined versions, I guess, is really the issue. Like you can find Wild decks, but to find the refined version. And what's funny is when you play Wild at like rank 20, it's just a mishmash of weird whatever.
Yeah.
But once you get up to like, rank 4 to Legend, I always felt like, and this changed, I think, in January for sure, but I always felt like what would happen is I would see a deck one day, and then the next day everyone would be playing that deck. And it was just like the news traveled so fast, but it also just, it wasn't necessarily that it traveled fast. It's like the smaller player base meant once a new deck was discovered that had a good win rate, it didn't mean that, like, out of the millions of people playing, 10% of them found the deck. It was like out of the thousands of people playing, they all found this deck, and now everyone's playing it. So it seemed like it would happen so quickly. And I'd always be like, where do I find this list? I don't know what's going on.
I think that's one of the one of the coolest parts, but also one of the harder parts for players in Wild is you do have such a larger card pool. It's harder to find, or it's harder to refine deck lists because like, let's take Even Shaman, for example. Like you have your core, like 20 cards, but then you still have like
4 mana 7/7 that goes in.
Yep, he goes in, but there's even versions that cut one of those, so sometimes you only run one. Or like right now, Even Shaman, people are realizing, hey, you don't need Flametongue Totem and Wild for it to still be good. People are putting in like Wind Fury 1 copy, or you'll put in like the Fire Elemental. So like it's a lot harder, especially when you get into like Reno decks, because it's just like there's like 25 flex slots in all of them. So it's harder to refine, and it's whenever people are like, hey, what's the best version of Reno Lock? I'm like, well, what are you playing up against a lot? Because there's like 12 different versions you can play right now. So it's kind of tough.
Those decks you can actually tailor to the decks you're seeing a lot, which I think is like, there's just not a best version. There's a core set of cards, like you said, and then pay attention to what you're facing. And do I need a big game hunter? Okay, it goes in, right? Like you just kind of tailor to the needs.
Yep, exactly.
When you're playing like the aggro pirate stuff, that's a pretty solidified list. You're like, the pirates that go well together. I get it. But as soon as you start getting into the control decks, right, there's so many freaking options.
Yep, exactly. It's even like, oh yeah, I'm against this control warrior. I'm like, well, there's a few different versions. Like some run Azalina, some don't. So there's a bunch of crazy options you have in Wild, which makes it kind of fun.
What's the most hated deck for you right now? What's the deck that when you see it, you're just like, oh man.
Right now, there's been a huge resurgence of the aggro Secret Mage that's popped up out of nowhere, and I think it's because of the qualifiers for the Wild playoffs. I think all of the top 6 for US had aggro Secret Mage as one of their decks, and that deck is all over the place. And I pretty much always play some kind of Reno control deck, and that's a really tough matchup for a Reno deck because they kill you real fast with fireballs.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Ice Block is also a nice way to make sure you burn them out first. So.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that's right. Ice Block is still alive over there. Oh
yes,
my God.
it is.
Yeah, because I've been
and
enjoying.
Also, I've been seeing Duplicate because you can duplicate your Kirin Tor mages and then do it again the next turn. And yeah.
Somewhere Ben Brode is laughing because of how wrong I was on Duplicate all those many years ago.
I know.
Medivh's Valet. Remember that card?
Yeah, Medivh's Valet. He's insane. Like it's a Frost Bolt that also gets a body. It's crazy.
Yeah. And Ice Lance, that's a card that's still there too. Yeah, no, yeah, that's interesting. I forgot about that deck. I actually don't see it on the ladder that often currently.
Yeah, it's only been about like the past day and a half that it's just been kind of everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, right now I feel like I'm running into tons and tons of Odd Warrior, and it's really pissing me off.
Yeah, Odd Warrior can be super annoying.
Yeah. And it's funny because the deck is not that different from what they're doing in Standard. It's just I struggle sometimes to figure out what are the cards they're adding to this list, and I'm just like, I don't even see them. They're reckless flurrying and they're brawling me and they're whatever. And but it's
the
just,
list. It's funny. It's not far off from the Standard list. Most of them.
Yeah.
It turns out 4 armor a turn. Turns out 4 armor a turn is good in both formats.
Just good. Actually, I want to look at the top list and see what is the odd thing.
What I'm really hearing is that if I'm suffering from Hearthstone nostalgia and I haven't been playing Wild, I'm missing out.
Yeah. Deathlord, Bash, Cold Light Oracle, Ravaging Ghoul. Ravaging Ghoul alone, that's enough.
Yeah, Ravaging Ghoul is really good.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so last month I hit Legend with Odd Warrior, and I was playing the version that has I think it's the Violet. Whatever.
Oh, Violet. Yeah, Violet something. The thing that 4/3 that makes you immune when you attack, right?
You play that with the Cold Light Oracles.
It's sick.
And Super Colliders. But it's really good against like other like Reno decks because you can play her at the end and Cold Light Oracle and mill.
You're doing like a mill strategy. Okay.
And you don't take the damage. So it's pretty
So
cool.
do you run like Zola and stuff to make more Cold Light Oracles? Okay.
Yep.
Sweet.
Right.
So that's fun.
Well, there's quite a bit of Wild happening in the news this week, so let's flip that switch and talk about what's happening.
Good news, everyone!
So we now have live leaderboards for Standard and Wild. I've been making the joke since it went up that that it was just in time for the ladder to no longer feed into Hearthstone esports. But with the Wild Open having just happened, it's good for the future Wild Opens.
Future Wild Opens, yeah.
I'm sure that for all of them that happen all the time.
For 2020 when we have that other future Wild.
I'm reaching. I mean, it's not a bad thing that this is here, but it does seem like, oh, well, we're not going to be caring about it nearly as much because HCT is over, and
Well, you know what I thought about when I saw this is a great tool for community tournaments, right? Like I could make some sort of a qualification thing like the Wild Open and say, hey, if you're top 100 on the 20th of February, then you qualify for ours, Wild whatever or our Standard whatever. And I put on my own tournament and I have that as a qualification.
That's a great idea.
And, and I feel like because we are going to talk about Ixar's tweet pretty soon, but in lieu of getting things like a supported tournament mode that Blizzard created, I would just like more tools to allow the community to function and make tournaments and not have it be such a pain in the ass, right? A better spectator mode, blah, blah, blah. But things like this are just more tools that we can plug into and use. So even though they don't, you're right, they don't feed into HCT anymore, the ladder results. It's still also, for like streamers, it's an important thing to be at some top whatever because that gets people to tune in. So it's just nice to be able to go check it out without having to log in the client and be friends with everybody, which a lot of pros kind of had to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it updates often enough though, and I guess that makes sense. But I was like logged on to somebody. I was watching. I can't remember who it was. I was watching somebody's stream, and then their leaderboard number did not match it at all anymore. But I mean, I get it. It's probably cached and refreshes at certain intervals.
Yeah, I have no idea what would go into having to make it a 1-to-1 live feed. That would have to be quite the challenge.
It'd be doable, but it'd take some computing power.
Yeah, it would take effort, especially with all the different regions and blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
effort I don't really think I need my Hearthstone devs putting in. But it's, again, this is like the website team, and they're killing it right now with something like this. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea too of the like community tournament things, because there's like Team One Trick, they put on their wild ladder tournaments that they do, and I don't remember who it was, but they put up this Wallet Warriors tournament, and it was every deck had to be all legendaries, but like they could use something like this as a way to qualify as well, and that's kind of cool. I just love seeing cool community tournaments like that.
Yeah, I've talked on this show about, rather than have this whole thing of like the end of the month mattering so much, where it's like you got this deadline and you have to be there at exactly that moment in time. It's like if you just hit #1 legend throughout the month, everybody who hit #1 legend throughout the month are all qualified for some tournament. I think that would be sweet.
That'd be sweet.
Right? Because it's just all I got to do is just get there one time. And then you probably have, I don't know, 12, 20 people who do that, right? It's not a huge number. But yeah, and you could open that up. You say like top 10. If you ever hit top 10, screenshot it, send it to us, and then you're qualified.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
That'd be kind of fun, because then it's just about getting there and having the streak and playing well at some point, and not, okay, at midnight or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever it is.
Whatever your time zone is.
Yeah.
At that moment, everything shifts over, and whatever you are then, it's like you could have lost one game and suddenly got kicked out of the top 100.
However, Hearthstone esports change from here on out for better or for worse. Getting that end of the month marathon session, just getting rid of that is such a boon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know so many people that's like, hey, you have to take off like the last week of my job every month so that I can try and qualify.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not getting sleep these last 3 days. It's like it's so unhealthy and it's tough.
It's not just the last day. Yeah, it's the last few days that they actually have to grind. Because let's say you're 500, 600. It takes a lot of freaking games and wins to crack into that top 100.
Yep. Also, the Wild Open, we've been talking about, the playoffs have happened. So we have the 6 players who qualified in NAEU and AP. China's will be coming straight from the ladder.
Yeah, I guess it's just #1 and 2 from the ladder. Is that, do you know, Saucy?
I don't know. I didn't get to see a whole lot of the coverage on the other regions, but that's what I've heard, is they just
2 players from each region, and they just said that the China region will just send 2 players based on just ladder finish, and they wouldn't have an actual tournament. So I'm guessing it's just 1 and 2 if they can make it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
probably.
And we can see when you go down to the archetype breakdown for the Wild Open what you were talking about, Saucy, with the Secret Mage being very popular.
Which I think that blindsided a lot of people. It makes sense just because a lot of people assumed there weren't going to be as much odd rogue with the changes, and so Secret Mage kind of got a spot to shine again. All the aggro lineups did really well.
Yeah, I'm looking and I'm seeing 1 big priest. So yeah, suck it, big priest.
One
It's
big
funny.
priest, 1 dragon priest.
Like a lot of people in the US region, that all the people I was talking to that were like planning and building decks and all of that, no, people weren't expecting there to be as much aggro. So a lot of people were building their decks to beat other like combo decks and to beat like the mill druids, and then aggro just like crushed it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm seeing aggro druid. I'm seeing odd paladins, odd rogues. Yeah.
Well,
And,
Odd Paladin is still
Secret Mages.
very good.
I could see you coming in from standard as well, being pretty used to long matchups.
yeah, right now standard is very control combo heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen the cloning gallery priest and like the big
The
butt
wall
priest.
priest.
Yeah.
And, the other priest.
And then there's like another priest and a couple other
the Mind
priests.
Blast control
And
dragon
then there's like a
priest.
nice garnishing of Mechathune decks all over the place.
Yep.
So if you like to play games while you're making dinner,
Yeah. So I actually tried out I tried out some of your decks, and we'll talk about those later, but I tried out of these lists. My whole plan was to like try a bunch of these lists last night on stream. I'm going to have to kind of table that and do them over the week or whatever. But the decks that I tried out that I actually did pretty well in from this were this Inner Fire Control Dragon Priest thing was actually super sweet, because just the Twilight Acolyte and the double potion of madness, so many ways to just kill people with their own minions. And it's just super fun. It's so satisfying to do that. But this was one of the funnest ones that I played. And then the Shutterwalk Shaman for the player 671's lineup to me is just like the funnest thing ever. But he's playing a Doppelgangster Evolve Grumble Shutterwalk deck, so it still has infinite Shutterwalk combos in it, kind of. Very cool. The double life drinker and everything. He's like, you can't do this in standard anymore, so gotta go to wild. Do it with Doppelgangsters.
Can still do it. It's did
cool.
you guys follow any of the coverage from the wild playoffs?
Well, the playoffs were not streamed, right? So you had to watch a player stream it. Yeah.
Or
so
go
I
on their
tried
Battlefy
to.
page.
It's frustrating though, because everyone was streaming with a delay, and it's hard for me personally to watch streams with delays because there's no chat interaction, and
Yeah, I was not aware that it wasn't streamed. I had all the travel last week, so yesterday I was sitting there with my coffee, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch some VODs from the Wild Open. Couldn't find it.
Oh wait,
anywhere.
Yeah, find Dr. J's stream and see if you stream some of it. You know what they could have done with this though? Is they could have done what they did with that Twitch Rivals Arena competition thing. I think that would be a great way to stream something like a big Swiss tournament type of thing, where you just kind of drop in on games in and out, and you have a couple people sitting on a couch, and you don't have to stream every friggin' match all goddamn day and have it last forever.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of casual way, I think, to run a tournament. Twitch Rivals, obviously, they're working with Twitch's actual infrastructure, so I'm sure they're probably getting a slightly higher resolution capture of the streams because Twitch is putting it on. But you could do that. It's not it's Hearthstone. This isn't.
And it's Blizzard. Blizzard runs this tournament. Like it feels like I'm a fan of them doing the Wild Open, but I'm not a fan of this watered down version of esports they give us when it comes to Wild.
Yep.
It's best of 3.
Yeah.
We stream the top 8. That's it. Like the rest of everything doesn't matter at all, apparently.
It's funny. I also didn't know it was like that. It wasn't streamed at all. I was like, I'm going to I took my morning off. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to watch, these people play. And then I turn on
some
like,
too, right?
Wait, where's it at? Like, where's, and then I was looking, I was like, I have to look at a Battlefy ladder results. I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah. And that's, I think the thing is that Wild could have a big, I love that Wild is a small community. I think it's great because it's really fun to dip your toes in there and be like, look, I'm seeing the same names all the time. And I feel like I'm running into people, especially when you get to Legend. And like last month was the first time I ever got to Legend in Wild. And all of a sudden it was, the same names over and over again. And I'd kind of be able to track like, oh, that guy jumped up a little bit. Now I'm playing him again. He's dumpstered now. And like, it's just kind of interesting. You see all this ebb and flow and you see these familiar names. We could build the Wild community if Blizzard would just put on some more tournaments and have them broadcast and people could see how fun and cool Wild games can be, right? But I just think there's not enough exposure to that. Well, so if you're not a person who's a familiar, you're just like, no, I don't care about Wild.
Yeah. But who knows, dude? Maybe standard esports will also get watered down. We still don't know. The announcement has been postponed. We're not going to know now until the 21st if they end up sticking to that date. We still don't know the finer details.
We postponed it, but it's definitely this time going to be on Thursday. We won't change it again.
I mean, considering everything that just went down over at Blizzard, specifically involving most of the esports employees, I can understand pushing this to a certain degree. If the selfish Hearthstone gamer in me goes, don't you already have this figured out? What's there to delay?
Probably
the rumor that I heard was the esports team got knocked down to like literally just a handful of people, right? So
I'm not so sure it's a rumor. I've heard it from so many different people.
I don't have actual
taking
unconfirmed information.
But I mean, 800 people losing their jobs. Yeah, okay, maybe it takes you 2 extra days to put this thing together. I'm still excited. I'm tentatively excited about what this announcement is, but I'm also skeptical that I'm going to enjoy everything they say.
Yeah.
It's I'm in that position where I'm just like, I'm not going to like this, am I? I'm just, which is hopefully good. Hopefully it means I'm going to be surprised and happy with whatever gets announced because I am ready like a Michael Bay film to just want my money back.
By the way, so I wasn't here last week. I'm sure that was the week you and Jocelyn talked about the whole situation, right? Because
yeah, we had Justin on last week, and it was while it was breaking, and I mean, since
it all happened on Monday,
Tuesday,
right?
While
I thought Monday was the day of the actual layoffs, and then
no, it was
Tuesday
Tuesday
when it all came out. Oh, okay, it was happening during the show.
It was leaked over the weekend, and so Monday was just a period of great unrest.
Okay, so my take on it is, after like reading some more information and reading like the actual call that they had, and like looking at some of the presentations that were given during their earnings call when they talked about how they was going to be releasing, laying off 800 people. I'm pissed, but I'm also like, there's some silver linings in here. And one of the silver linings is that they want to shift more towards development. So hopefully that means that there will be hirings and development, and things will get developed. Because holy crap, please develop things. I'm not so sure that it's always 100% negative that the company isn't in charge of esports. I would kind of hope what they would do is, like, it definitely does work. There's many certain situations, or many situations where it has worked great, right? Like Valve with Dota and their championships and everything. That has all been fantastic. But I'm not sure it works with every company, and I wouldn't mind seeing Hearthstone be like, we're not doing the esports thing correctly. If we could hire a company that's good at doing it and have them do it, and maybe do it better than we're doing it, and give them the tools they need and have them tell us what they need and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of my hope, that that's somehow the direction it ends up going.
I mean, when you think about it,
this is just like me wishing and praying, but
yeah. I mean, there's a big conversation around just Blizzard and their esports in general, because I mean, they canceled the Heroes esports at the 11th hour, right before the holiday break. All signs point to Hearthstone esports taking a significant step back. With all
they have to go back on their previous announcement of increasing the prize pool and all that stuff, though.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
We'll see if that's actually
if the rumor is that the premier, they're not even calling it league. Well, I forget the actual term that they use. If the rumor is that that's going to be invite, and the verbiage they use of it being your favorite players and personalities comes to fruition, it's going to be a fluff league. Like, that's not hardcore esports. That's not the best of the best. That's the best of the most popular.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
And so that's my concern there. And Overwatch League is doing fine, but it's also, I don't think it's as big as they hoped it was going to be, which is why I'm confused why on the earnings call they're like, and we're going to invest more into that. And I'm like, if that was going to be big, it would have already been big. Like, if that was pouring more money into that, I don't think is going to get you the splash that you're looking for. And so I kind of look at Blizzard as having this like esport kind of overinvestment that we saw a lot of other video game studios do with MMOs around World of Warcraft. You saw all these other studios just invest too heavily into MMOs, and it didn't work out for them. And I think we're kind of seeing Blizzard having invested too hard in esports, and it's not working out for them.
Yeah, which is why I think maybe Blizzard should stick to making games and then hire out the esports.
And another,
it's not a bad idea.
In charge of esports to do it well, do the esports thing.
Another thought I've had too is that really Hearthstone has an esport because of the grassroots. In the early days, it didn't like kick the door down with HCT. We had like that weird ass fight night going on for a while. We had a lot of community tournaments, and in talking to Eric Dodds before he left the team, he seemed like he didn't want esports. Like, it wasn't even on his radar. And towards the end of his time,
spectator mode at all.
And towards the end of his time in Team 5, it almost seemed like he was like fighting against it.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have Hearthstone esports, to me, it's the last time I saw grassroots esports really build something out of Blizzard, because everything else has been created by Blizzard in the first place.
Yeah, like that's why I kind of bring that up, is like, this is my hope is that Blizzard, if they have more devs, less people on teams like an esports team that is in-house, the devs can essentially work with the people who are putting things on, like the Dream Hacks of the world and things like that do esports pretty damn well, and and say, well, what do you need us to develop to make it work for you, right? And then actually have the resources to do that, rather than us having friggin' upside down cards for 4.5 years now in spectator mode. You know, it's like, come on, guys.
I know it's like, it's better. Funny. We see so many of these community ran, you know, small tournaments and things that are ran at like such a high level with good production. And like the Team One Trick tournament they just did not long ago, they had like the overlays and everything. It's like, these look better than a lot of the official tournaments that we get. And it's just, I don't know, it makes me sad. Like a company like Blizzard, they have enough money and enough resources to, you know, do this. And I don't know, I feel like there could be such a big thing there.
I mean, I ran the taco by myself.
Yeah.
And cast it and streamed it. And it's fine. I'm like, a one person team can do this with Garrett just emailing me some overlays.
Yeah.
Come on, what can we do with an actual production crew here that's
right?
not getting done?
And especially, so, yeah. I mean, it's like Hearthstone's it's a competitive card game. And like, I come from a Magic background, and it's just like games like this, it's so cool. Like an appeal of the game is that you can jump on your computer and play the game whenever you want. And like to be able to play tournaments, like if we had a tournament mode or something like that.
Oh, man.
Things like that.
You should get the cough looked at.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up this crazy nonsense.
Oh, yeah, that cough sounds like a successful suggestion.
Yeah, oops, sorry. I'm getting over this cold of suggestions.
Yeah, I'm with all the points brought up here. I'm all for you know, just hand it to the community, but at the same time though, it makes me think like you need to hand the community more tools.
Yeah,
it did
100%.
seem, and it did. I've always kind of looked at some of the issues with the Hearthstone esports as a disconnect, because the Hearthstone esports team was not Team 5. You know, there's only so much possible with the game because the game is pretty bare bones, which is a good thing. It's a boon to Hearthstone. It's a reason that so many people have picked this game up, is because the interface design is so simple, so straightforward, and so beautiful that I know people whose parents and grandparents play this card game, which is not usually the case.
and the strategy is friggin' there, man. I know people talk down about Hearthstone sometimes, especially people who like play Magic and whatever, and the more complicated games. I'm just like, this game has all the freaking strategy you could ever want, and it's beautiful to watch, and there's just so much depth that is actually there. And the mulligan system is great. Like, you actually get games rather than like watching someone get mana screwed. There's so much potential here, and I do feel like it's being squandered. And I think, you know, one of the reasons is Wild not getting its due. And maybe if the community was running tournaments rather than Blizzard, you might get enough of a push from the people who are doing it. Because like, Team One Trick, like you said, they're doing great things with doing these kind of open tournaments and stuff, and getting people to actually play competitive Wild. And it's just the efforts are getting ignored, I think, because the big money is in the HCT.
Yep,
I agree. Well, before we get into just a suggestion bonanza, thanks to a tweet from Ixar, let's thank our sponsor for today, MeUndies, which you can check out by going to meundies.com/TAC. I would just like to ask, for the folks not watching the video version, Dills is showing his actual brand new underwear.
Yeah, I'm going to open my MeUndies package live on stream. By the way, every time they send them to me too, they always send me a postcard, and this thing is friggin' like handwritten. Have you noticed that?
Yes, they send us. They're very lovely. They treat us very, very kindly.
What a company! Like, that just takes care of the people that.
Hey, Dills, we hope you're still digging it. Oh,
perfect. Yeah, very classically designed here. These are good. Yeah, and by the way, the comfort level is insane. But here's the thing that I don't think we ever talk about. Do you know where if you throw your boxers in the dryer, that the waistband gets all screwed up?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that with the MeUndies. I mean, still, you should probably hang them, but my waistband on these things actually doesn't get all, bent and weird. Yeah, and all. Yeah.
So, I have the world's oldest dryer. I have never hung my underwear, and my MeUndies are still like the day I opened them.
It's exactly. Like, it's the chicken neck thing or whatever that people talk about. Like, it just gets all screwed up, and then
Yeah.
I remember in the Michael Jordan Hanes commercial, they talked about it. The collar, like your shirts, and then they get all screwed up. Like, That doesn't happen with the MeUndies. They've got some magic sauce.
If you're unaware, they use a micromodal fabric, which is 3 times softer than cotton. Take that, big cotton. And it's just wonderful. They are so soft that you may think your cheeks are being supported purely by magic. That's how soft they are. And they've got a great offer for the Angry Chicken listeners out there. For any first-time purchasers, when you order MeUndies, you can get 15% off and free shipping. It's a no-brainer. Go treat your butt, literally, and get 15% off a pair of the most comfortable undies you will ever put on when you go to MeUndies.com/TAC. You can get 15% off your first pair, free shipping, a 100% satisfaction guarantee by going to MeUndies.com/TAC right now. Also, you'll support your favorite Hearthstone podcast.
That's right. And you'll support your package quite nicely as well. Not just your butt. This isn't in the bullet points. MeUndies, they really make the package.
And if you're going, Garrett, I just showed up for Saucy Mailman because Into the Wild is my favorite Hearthstone podcast. I'll say you can support your second favorite Hearthstone podcast.
There you go.
First or second, either way.
Yeah, either way.
Supporting them, it's good.
They will support your butt, and you will support the Angry Chicken. Let's talk about that Ixar tweet, because yesterday Ixar put out, and I saw this tweet around the time that it happened. I'm just like, did you just think to yourself, Dean, that you wanted to spend 5 hours reading Twitter replies today?
Well, did you see his tweet today?
Yes, I did. He got some
boba and read these 1,200 replies.
Yeah, he got 1,200 replies, and it has even more at this point. Ixar asked on Twitter, if Hearthstone used to be your main game, but isn't anymore, what would get you back? And
it's a solid question.
Yeah.
I love that he asked this, because this is the kind of thing I want them to be asking us, you know?
Yes. And other than just replies with Ben Brode's face and hiring back 800 employees, which was a little mean, there were some interesting replies in here. And the ghost of Jocelyn will visit us throughout some of these replies that I pulled into this episode. I say ghost. Is she still around? The spirit of Jocelyn will visit us from Canada. But there's so many things in here, but I figure we could go through a couple of the replies and then maybe add some of our own. But friend of the show, Jonathan Vigil, replied to Ixar and said, rotate the classic set, tournament mode with bans, more play modes in general. I still play Hearthstone, but maybe 1/10 of what I used to. And
I think if you look at the demographics of the answers, tournament mode was really, really high up on the list of things people said.
It made me feel super smug to all of those Twitter replies and YouTube comments that are like, no one wants you tournament mode. You guys are in your own tower.
Does anyone else think that they're just harping on this thing and nobody really wants it? No, man, people freaking want this thing. Also, formats was another thing that was all over.
Formats was brought up a lot, but I'm not done. You know who else replied? The only thing in this reply was tournament mode. So someone wrote tournament mode, and no, it wasn't me, it wasn't Jocelyn, it wasn't Dills. It was Che Chow, the previous head of Hearthstone Esports, who is now the director of Ubisoft Esports. He replied saying tournament mode.
It sounds to me like he must have been fighting for it, and it just wasn't happening. And
just like he shrugs his shoulders. Hey, how about this tournament mode thing?
Yeah. Now he doesn't have to bite his tongue anymore. He can say whatever he wants. I'm
sorry, Team 5, but I'm going to now reference this particular reply for the rest of my life until we get tournament mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's important, man. I want them to treat it like it's important, even if it's not around the corner. I hated when they just said we're not doing it. It's just not happening. Right?
Well, they said it was on indefinite hiatus, right?
Yes. That sounds like I'm not doing it to me. My homework tonight, Mom, is on indefinite hiatus. But I'll probably get around to it.
Also,
there's a chance.
Yeah. Also, the speed at which Team 5 has historically moved. If you say something's on his indefinite hiatus, I'm like, great. Well, I'm going to need to put my head in a jar Futurama style because I'm going to be 205 years old by the time this gets finished.
Right?
That being said, they are moving at a significantly faster pace, at least with the nerfs as of late. So
sure. I mean, things have improved. I can't. It's funny because, with all the complaints we make, I did look back at the year of 2018 and was like, a lot of stuff happened. It was a pretty
solid year for Hearthstone.
I wanted, but
no, it wasn't. I mean, it was sad. It was it was a very predictable year in that it was, well, we got our 3 expansions, tournament mode was canceled, and that was more or less it.
But we had like ladder things change. We had rank 50 added. We had there's a lot of things that happened. Like, and they're just small things that spread out over time. Don't feel like a lot is happening, but every year stuff is happening. It's just we're always like, but there's this one thing. Yeah, not happening.
I think it's growing pains, and Overwatch is going through the same thing. I mean, they're about to release a new map, so it's probably not the best time to invoke that. But up until this point, Overwatch players were like, "Hey, can we get something new, please?
Stuff happen, please."
Yeah. It's not strictly a Hearthstone issue, and don't get me started on the poor folks that are really, really into Diablo. So
yes, hopefully they have cell phones.
Amaz tweeted saying Arena mattering more would be nice, to which Joss Plays replied, would be great to have an all-around championship, Arena plus Standard plus Wild, like a triathlon, with the winner being our world champion, would put more emphasis on game modes that aren't Standard.
We've talked about this on the show a lot. Like, the Magic world champion is not decided by the best of 3 of Standard, Yep. They got to draft. They got to play different formats. Like there's Modern, there's Standard, there's Draft.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Joss also had a standalone reply to XR. She wrote, would love to ban a class on ladder. Also for tournament play, if we're not going to get a full mode, the ability to challenge people by battle tag without adding to my friend list. Sounds like someone who may have worked for DreamHack in the past with helping with tournaments.
Oh man. Yeah. That's a huge one, because I used to, when I did play Standard, I went to DreamHack Denver and played in that. It was like I'm deleting people on my friends list and adding people all day. It was more than I'm playing. It's so annoying.
Yeah, and with the 200-person cap, if you're somebody like a streamer or a podcaster or whatever, or a frequent tournament player, you're juggling the damn friends list all the time. And it's
if you're someone who's just so internet famous, you have too many friends. It's such a problem.
That doesn't even internet famous. Just if you play against a lot of people. If you're a frequent Hearthstone player who plays against random different people, I play open tournaments every day. Like
I get it, man.
Stupid thing.
Every time I got to add people to send taco winnings, I'm just like, oh, okay, time to break out the scythe and call some people on my friends list.
Yep.
Well, not to mention, let's say I play World of Warcraft and Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm. They all use the same friggin' list.
Yep.
Yeah, it's problematic for sure. That seems, again, not knowing how difficult it is to add that to the game, but it seems like a Band-Aid fix. Like, what would be nice is an actual tournament mode. But, like, can we just add, or can we just challenge people without adding them as a friend? Joss hit the nail on the head there. Trump, the player, not the president, said 4 expansions instead of 3 a year, rotating basic/classic set, a move away from Super Death Star OTK and infinite value decks. You guys are already doing this. Yay. Hearthstone Auto Chess. We can program that into the current platform, right?
Yeah, Hearthstone Auto Chess.
Oh, please, right. God, yeah. I would just, if Hearthstone added an Auto Chess-esque play mode, I don't think I'd ever leave the client.
You're like, this client is always on.
Yeah, it's just done. Like, cool.
I mean, that's again, just like, there's a lot you can do with these cards and these health totals and these mana crystals.
Yeah.
Let's try them out.
I believe Trump also expanded upon this in a tweet following this, saying that he didn't mean rotate the basic and classic set out, but like remove cards and add cards, like adjust the basic and classic set, which is what I'd like to see.
Yeah, like some wild cards come in, some basic classics move out, and then you've got this kind of, thing where it's like, for one season we're not seeing Acolyte of Pain in every deck that wants to draw, right?
Yeah,
cool.
Figuring out other ways to do it.
All around nice guy, and also brother of Ben Brode, William Brode.
Oh, the superior Brode. Yeah.
Brode Plus.
Wrote in and said, more card rotation. Look at how Magic rotates out tons of cards regularly. Keeping classic and basic set is good for beginners and casuals, but bad for people to play a lot.
Another popular one was, this whole classic and basic living forever thing. It's just making the game, especially when, a lot of the cards printed in that set are things like Malagos, Alexstrasza, Faceless Manipulator, like these tools that are just never going to go away.
Doomsayer.
Doomsayer, exactly. Yeah, and the Mage having things like Frost Nova to go along with the Doomsayer, that kind of stuff. It's like you're just gonna do this forever.
Yeah.
Is that really fun to do, 20 years from now to still be getting blizzarded and Frost Nova'd?
And I this is why I really lean towards the create a new classic or basic set maybe once a year, treat it like a basic set from something like Magic, because I don't want Doomsayer to go away forever. It'd be cool if it went away and then in 3 years suddenly it's standard playable again.
Yeah.
That'd be really rad. I'm sitting here on my Paladin being like, I'd sure like to put Shielded Mini-Bot back in one of my decks in standard. That'd be fun, but I don't need everything else from GVG. I don't need to bring that madness back.
Well, I think that would also alleviate them like nerfing cards into absolute oblivion and making them unplayable. Like if you just didn't have that card for a while, it'd probably save a lot of those problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you think about a card like Muster for Battle is actually not even that good in the modern world of Hearthstone, right? Like it's good in certain styles of decks, right? And you see it in Aggro Paladin and Wild right now, but that's because in Aggro Paladin and Wild right now you can Quartermaster and you can play the little horsey guy that makes the +1s to them.
Yeah.
In Standard you can't. If that card was just moved back into Standard, it wouldn't even be that crazy right now. When it came out, we were just like, holy crap, what a ridiculous turn 3. And now it's just like, no, on turn 3, I'm doing way more things than playing 3 1/1s and a 1/4 weapon,
Yep.
Yeah. So I think the happy medium is that, because I think you're still being kind and healthy towards new players, but also throwing a bone to your diehard players.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I agree.
I think you'd have to have a dust, like a cheaper dust cost for crafting the cards when they move in, which would be kind of nice for newer players to be able to essentially kind of catch up with collections whenever the rotation happened. They're like, oh, I get to craft these cards for cheaper now, and then they are now in my collection, right? And I think there's lots of things, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show, but give us a few more things for free or cheap, and you'll end up getting me to spend a little more money in the long run. Because right now it feels like a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm just going to spend $0 because I'm not getting enough for my dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm so far away from being... Do you see the post on Reddit? The guy was like, I've been playing for free since Hearthstone came out. I've got 67% of the cards. Do you think I could ever get all of the cards? And everyone was just like, no, of course not. Yeah. But it's just like impressive that he freaking has 67% of the cards. But I mean, that guy is an anomaly. That is an outlier.
I don't want to think about how much that particular player has to play the game to have a 67% complete collection without having ever spent a dime.
Mm-hmm. You got guys like Merps who plays so much friggin' Arena. He actually like crafted he was just like, when they had gold cards introduced to Arena, he was literally like, he picked a card, then he'd go to his collection, crafted in gold so that it'd be gold now. He just did that forever, so he'd have all gold.
I love that.
Arena decks. Those players are very few and far in between. So you're talking most of the player base that I hear from consistently saying, I'm not buying the pre-release anymore, and I'm not buying packs anymore because I'm not getting enough. So yeah, little bits of extra stuff for it.
Speaking of Merps, the last reply I grabbed for the show to Ixar's question was from Merps. And Merps wrote, I think you could get a lot more people to dip their toes in Arena if you introduced a way for people to practice drafts and or challenge friends. Currently, no way to improve without spending 150 gold each time, which turns a lot of people off. And I would just like to edit your tweet a little bit, Merps, and just get rid of that and or. Just say challenge friends, because if we had challenging friends, we can have honest to God Arena tournaments.
That'd be so fun.
Real Arena tournaments.
Yep.
So my reply to him was obviously formats and tournament mode is what I want. In lieu of these things, because I'm not expecting them to happen, just make Brawliseum a permanent button. So rather than having it come around here and there, and I want it in Wild too. I want to be able to decide if I want to be a ladder player or a Brawliseum player. And also, if I don't like Arena, Brawliseum gives me a way to grind up a collection, right?
Yeah.
And I have to think, and me and Garrett talked about this before the show, but I have to think that because most of the player base will not be infinite Brawliseum players, this actually gives Blizzard a chance to maybe collect some $1.99s throughout the 4 months like expansion period, right? Where people oftentimes currently to my knowledge anyway, a lot of people buy a bunch of packs up front and then hoard their gold until the next expansion and never sink another bit of gold or bit of money into the game for that entire 4-month period. I might get people to be, actually putting money down. So I just think it's a win-win. I hope they do something along these lines. Like, I really hope that Ixar is serious about taking all these suggestions into consideration.
Yeah, I agree.
Great that he's asking.
Yeah, Merps has reignited a fire in me that of a request I haven't mentioned in years, which is just allow me to challenge friends with my arena deck. Like, and I've never heard a reply from Team 5 as to why we can't do that, is the other thing. And I'm pretty sure it's like, oh, well, we get paid when you play arena, and we don't want you just sitting on the deck to play your friends with it.
Probably.
But I have to imagine that the amount of players that would just sit on a deck, it would have to. How many people would truly do that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that. For me, I want formats, especially just coming from, like I said, Magic the Gathering, just being able to have. I feel like at some point we're going to come to where we need to have more than just 2 formats. Like as the card collection gets vast and things continue to break the client and all of that. So having more formats would be awesome. And I agree with everyone. A rotating basic classic set would be awesome. Like that would definitely get me to play more standard along Wild, honestly. Like if I knew that it was going to change often enough to make the game different, like that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Right now, a new expansion comes out and it doesn't feel like standard actually changes that much, which feels like a huge reason to push towards playing Wild because, at least there's like so much to experiment with that if I want the change, I can make the change, right?
Yep.
Like obviously the decks that I'm going to play against or whatever, but I have so many options that I can just find new cool things. By the way, I did look into this because what Merps's response was I was like, there used to be a website where you could practice arena. I just looked it up, arenavalue.com. It is so outdated. It is still putting commons against commons and rares against rares, and I don't think it's got any cards past TGT. So this website died.
Yeah, but that would only allow you to practice the draft. I think you also need to learn. It'd be nice to be able to practice playing games with
exactly.
with suboptimal cards that you're
against
forced
people
to,
with other suboptimal cards.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people make the argument, you could just make the deck and play it on ladder. I'm like, yeah, because you're going to play against OTK Druid with your bad, like, Murloc Tiny Fins.
Yeah, no. Not the same.
Not the solution that we're looking for.
No, and you can't, and you can have more than 2 of in arena. Yeah. So it's not, that's
exactly.
why, because every time I bring up arena tournaments, people are like, they already did it. I'm like, no, it's not the same. It's not the same. Don't tell me they already did arena tournaments because it's not the same.
Doesn't count.
Exactly. I want like 4 Nose Dormus to show up in a tournament at some point.
Yeah, I remember that tournament. Somebody had to retire their draft because they picked 3 fireballs or something, and it was just like, whoops, I can't do this. And it was just like, are you disqualified? What do you even do? It's just annoying, right?
Yeah,
it's really dumb.
Yep. And so that's the thing is that like, if the community takes on more of the tournament creation, the development side of things need to create more tools.
Yes.
Which sounds obvious because we've been saying it for years, but it still hasn't happened. And the one hope we had in the form of tournament mode was canned. So
indefinitely on hold.
Indefinitely on hiatus. Yes. Yes.
So dumb. Worst cop out ever.
anyways, Sazi, we would be remiss if we didn't have you talk about some wild decks. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this week's strategy segment.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay.
So keeping with the wild theme today, Dills, you asked Saucy for some suggestions as to what wild decks to play. And Saucy, you gave us your Tempo Hunter and your Reno Combo Priest.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring a couple decks that, one, you'd have, if you wanted to try out Wild and just try a couple decks, like this Tempo Hunter is pretty cheap for one, but it also showcases what I think is a direct correlation of having so many standard players, because it is pretty similar to standard, like a standard hunter list, but kind of like a wild take on it. So we have this. It's a tempo hunter that I got from Get Meowth. Do you want me to read off the list real quick?
I mean, we got it on the screen, so we can talk about the major differences between a standard tempo list and the wild one. Is that you now have alley cats available to you. You have kindly grandmother and quick shot, but I think other than that, every other card in here is standard legal, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It was one of those things, like seeing Master's Call, it seems like such a powerful card, and I haven't seen like other lists. Like it hasn't really been explored a whole lot in Wild yet. And this deck really uses it, and it's a very aggressive deck. Like Alley Cat and Spring Paw together are so strong. And like you said you were trying this last night. You went like 14 and something.
I was 14-1 at some point. I think then I lost a couple. I think I ended at like 15-2, 15-3, something ridiculous. I mean, I was ranked 5 0 stars, and when I was done with the deck, I was ranked 3 like 4 stars or something like that. So I mean, I just shot straight up with this thing.
Yeah. As far as for the listeners out there, if you want these deck lists, as always, they can be found in the episode post for this episode. So head on over to amove.tv/TAC and find the episode 302 post. We'll have the deck codes in there for you. If you're watching live, it's not up yet. This is for podcast.
There's a couple of interesting choices in this deck that I kind of wanted to ask you about. One is your 1-drop set here. You got double Alley Cat, double Spring Paw, but then you go 1 Dire Mole, 1 Timberwolf. Why not double up the Timberwolf or double up the Dire Mole? What's the thought process behind double dipping, I guess?
I like having the split between the two. You definitely, every game you want to have at least some kind of a 1-drop. The Timberwolves are actually better late game because you're running the 2 sets of Unleash the Hounds. I always call that Call the Puppies. So I'm like, what's it actually called?
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of lethals with Tundra Rhino and Timberwolf and things, right? So
so you want to wait for him later game. Most of the time you have a good 1-drop with Alley Cat, Spring Paw, because you honestly like mulligans with this deck are pretty easy because you aggressively mulligan for a 1 or 2 drop a lot of the times.
And why double tracking? Because I found, first of all, I found it good.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, thought process behind it, because there, with double Master's Call in the deck, it feels like a deck that doesn't really struggle with drawing quite as much as Hunter traditionally does.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's one spot that I've messed around a bit with it. I think the current one I'm running, I dropped the trackings. I put in 1 more Dire Frenzy and another Dire Mole. Yeah,
see, I was thinking maybe even another Timberwolf and another, like, I love the Dire Frenzy so many times in so many games. Like, I would get a Scavenging Hyena on the board or something, and then they would do some damage to it, trying to set themselves up to be able to kill it the turn after. And then I'd frenzy it and just like, it's out of range now. Sorry. And
Scavenging Hyena is insane in this deck. It is so gross.
Yeah, and I think, this is obviously a good deck in Standard, but I think in Wild, one of the reasons why it does so well is there are a lot of decks that... Like there are combo decks and there's late game stuff, but I feel like there's a lot more people doing setup decks, and this deck has the ability, like Cube Warlock is big and Wild, not really that big in Standard, and this is a deck that has the ability to get a bunch of damage in early and then swing over the top with like kill commands and quick shots and stuff, and obviously the hero power. Yeah. So it's able to punish like decks that in Standard I feel like don't get punished, because you just get cleared, and then like OTK'd, and it just happens less in Wild, I feel like. Yeah. So I was just murdering everybody in my path, man. It was crazy.
And what's crazy, one of the coolest things about this deck is Dills and I were talking about this last night, is there's more games than not I chose not to play Rexar because just shooting him in the face for 2 every turn was actually better. It's just kind of insane.
Rexar was like how you beat an Odd Warrior, which comes up. But you don't need it in a lot of other matchups.
I mean, you've spent a lot of time today talking about your tech choices in Wild. I mean, and it's certainly important in Standard as well. But it's cool that Deathstalker Rexar almost feels like a tech choice.
Yeah, and it kind of is.
I mean, it's certainly not bad to have him because
he's good, but yeah, a lot of times you're like, because you keep things with, you're like, all right, well, I have a kill command and a quick shot. I'd rather push 2 damage every turn. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're just describing momentum. Do I have it? Cool. Let's keep it. Why would you, on purpose, lose your momentum? Why would you hit the
Yeah.
brakes and start trying to craft expensive creatures with Rexar?
Yeah.
So I had great success with this deck. I did not have great success with the Reno combo priest. So maybe you can talk to me about how to pilot this thing. Because
I got run over at
get
rank
it.
25 wild for trying the Reno combo priest.
I mean,
So,
I get it, but I also so the matchups I was struggling with, I lost to, and I guess this is just a bad matchup. Odd Warrior was, I just could never deal enough damage.
Odd
And
Warrior's
then-
abysmal.
Yeah, and then a Mechathune Warlock just kind of got there before I got there,
Yeah.
type of thing. But what are the matchups you're looking for, and what's the game plan here?
So Reno Priest is in an interesting spot. It's kind of like my passion project of this month. I love Reno Warlock's probably like my favorite deck of all time. And I think in a lot of, it's just a different type of deck. Whereas with Reno Warlock, you have innate card draw built in. So the biggest downside of the Reno Priest deck is you do lack a lot of card draw. Priest itself it doesn't have as much as you would with the Warlock. But what's cool about the Reno Priest is it's a Reno deck where you can actually kill people, whereas your win condition with Reno Warlock most of the time is just don't lose. This one you actually kill them at some point. Against things like a lot of decks you want to play against Even Shaman with this. Usually you have a good game against Odd Rogue. It can do okay against Kingsbane Rogue. It's a little tougher. It's pretty good against Odd Paladin because you have so many board clears.
Yeah, I
But-
beat all the aggro decks for sure.
Yeah.
But
Against
I didn't
other
really beat them
control
by
decks?
killing them. I just killed all their stuff.
Yeah,
and then
those
they-
you just kill their things and then they
Yeah.
get mad. Odd Warrior's tough. You can get there if you can get your early, like your Raza and your Anduin.
Mhm.
You can Velen is really good. If he sticks around for a turn, you can usually get there. But
I
against
think I
other
was-
Reno decks, it's good.
I think I wasn't holding on to things like Flash Heal and Regenerate and stuff, and then
Yeah.
using them in conjunction with Phantasm and the Shadow Reaper, because
you can do
I
a
think
ton
you
of
need the
damage.
extra damage, right?
Mhm.
Like the 4 damage or 6 damage you do with pings, and then eventually maybe 8 with the Prophet Velen is like not enough to get there. You need that other burst. So
Yep, exactly. So this is it's like the combo version. I got this list from Memnarch. And you want to keep like you said, the Flash Shield, the Regenerate. You want to keep those with your the 2-drop, the Akanai
the Akanai
Phantasm.
Phantasm, yeah.
And then when you have the Spawn of Shadows, because we have that card, you can, with Spawn of Shadows and the Mirage Collar, you can start doing 12 damage with your hero power each time you use it, and it's pretty nutty.
Okay.
You do it to yourself though too, so be
Yes.
careful. You're going to be dealing 10 to them and 8 to yourself each time you hero power, right? So
Yeah, it is. I would say it is a fairly difficult deck to pilot because there is a lot of math that it goes into every one of your turns, and it's like, since you do have less cards on average, to work with than like a Reno Warlock, you have to really play greedy. Like there's a lot of times you're like, do I need to clear this board or can I wait another turn, or do I need to play this Reno, or is there a chance that I can live another turn? So you definitely need a lot of meta knowledge to pilot a deck like this optimally. But those turns where you're doing 12 damage every time you hit your hero power feel pretty rad.
It's also,
Sure.
it's also worth mentioning that if you weren't around for Reno, sometimes it's totally okay to take
Yeah.
quite a bit of damage to your face.
Yeah.
also
It's cool.
Thorison ticks on Prophet Velen and some cheap stuff. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you can craft like the perfect hand to keep with your Emperor Thaurissan, you want to have like your Flash Heal in hand, you want to have your Akanai Phantasm, you want to have your Prophet Velen and Spawn of Shadows.
And you can
and-
just burst them from like 30 essentially.
Velen in this deck is insane. He has so much value. Even against aggro, just having like a Velen into a Flash Heal to heal for 10, it's so good.
Yep. No, that's what I was playing against. I played 2 games in a row. I think this is the guy you said to call double Mountain Giant or Molten
Yeah.
Giant you.
He double Molten
I
Giant
beat him
and then
twice in a row by essentially just not dying to
Yeah.
his aggression, and playing a Velen and healing for 4 just with a hero power.
Mhm.
Super solid in that situation.
Yeah, and it's Reno Priest in general. There's a few different versions of the deck you can play. Like there's a control like dragon version, which is pretty fun, and there's an Azoth version if you really just want to beat aggro. But this is one that I feel like if you can master it, it has a good game against other control decks as well.
Yeah, this one seems a little more streamlined to the game plan of eventually I just kill you. I draw through my deck and then I just kill you.
So it's pretty good.
So Dills, you brought something quite different for the class.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not bringing any try hard decks today because we got the Tempo Storm meta snapshot, which has all the try hard decks you could ever want.
Yep.
So I've got some decks here that I find just fun, but also can win.
Do you find them fun to play, or just to read the name of? Because this first one is called Shutter Jade Evolve.
Shutter Jade Volve, or you can call it Jade Shutter Volve, whatever you want to go with. So it runs, obviously, Shutter Walk, obviously all the Jade stuff. So you got your Jade Claws, you got your Jade Lightnings, Jade Spirits.
Yeah, you have all the versions of Volve. You have Evolve, you have Unstable Evolution, you have Devolve.
You have Devolve as well, yeah. And then you've got double Doppelgangster. So you got the sweet turn 6 Doppelgangster Evolve, where you just make 3 6-drops. You've got Unstable Evolution, so sometimes if you don't get that kind of thing going, you can pick and choose and stop where you want and all that kinds of stuff. Sometimes you go infinite, right? You get a Sorcerer's Apprentice or the Elemental Bro, and you can do all that kind of fun stuff. Then it's got Hagatha, which is just insane value generation. But then there's also the Shutterwalk turn, where what it does is it fills your board with Jades. Growing Jades. It also, because of Doppelgangster, will make more of itself. I don't have the Grumble in here because I don't want to put them back in my hand. I don't want to like build a big ass board of Jades and then pull them all back into my hand. No, I want to just make a big board. But then also when I make that big board, I Loatheb you and I Mojo Master Zihi you at the same time. So you literally can't do anything about it. You cannot play a spell to clear my board. Is there a 1 mana spell that now costs 6 that clears a giant board of Jades? I don't think so.
That's just evil.
Yeah, I did it with just the Loatheb before, and there was a couple times where I got the thing off. I did the Shutterwalk thing, and then I got this big board, and they were still able to like light bomb or something weird. Like they were still able to like do stuff. And I was like, no, you shouldn't be able to do stuff to me still. So I was like, all right, Mojo Master as well. Completely knocked it down. Yeah.
I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, this deck, I had a decent win rate with it. It's kind of just plays like a control deck that just makes bigger and bigger men every turn. So
yeah.
And then I also want to share with people, because this is obviously the thing that everyone asks about all the time, is the Milkshake deck. Milkshake deck in its current form is a Reno deck. So you got your Reno, you got your Kazakus, you got your Raza. But I also have the Dragon package, because obviously one of the best Milkshake cards ever printed is Draconid Operative. So I got to have that in there. And if I'm going to put that in, I need dragons. Also, that gives me a chance to run Duskbreaker. That gives me a chance to run Twilight Acolyte plus Cabal Shadow Priest. That gives me a chance to put up early walls.
It gives you no excuse not to run Nefarian.
Well, and also, Nefarian has to be in the deck too. Yeah, obviously, yeah. But this version now, and this deck actually does really well against any other greedy deck. So anytime you queue into like a Reno Mage or a Reno Lock or a Reno Priest, this deck has a fantastic opportunity to win, because it is just greedier than you are. No matter how greedy you are, this is greedier.
Are you sure you shouldn't name this deck Bobby Kotick?
Sure, yeah. It's all about me. I'm trying to take all the fun out of video game production here. So it's got Archbishop Benedictus. It's got Princess Talanji. So here's the beauty of that. You Benedictus their deck. Everything you draw that was a minion in their deck gets just chucked onto the board when you Talanji.
Yep.
But you've also got things like Nether Spite Historian, Seance, all that kind of stuff. So you can Thought Steal and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of build over time some minions that didn't start in your deck. And then when you Talanji, like one of my favorite plays with this is to do Sylvanas, Seance Sylvanas. Then I get a free Sylvanas later when I Talanji. And it's like one of the best minions to just dump onto the board for free. So you just get this. Like, I don't have an Azoth, right? I don't have a Gul'dan. So, like, Talanji acts as, like, my, bleh, here's a bunch of stuff. Deal with it. And then I threw in the Sephorium Bomber just as a fun little nod to some of the Mechathune decks I was running into. I was like, well, you know what? You draw through your deck, buddy. You go right ahead.
Let's do that.
And eventually you're going to get bombed in the face.
That's what I like about it. I mean, you're still trying to win. Like, you got Crowd Roaster in here for just some straight up value.
Oh, yeah, you got to roast people. Yeah. Being roasted. So
I'm reminded how much I miss Entomb.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, like, Entomb by itself is just strong.
Yeah, it's so good. And so one of the keys to this deck too is I'm trying to win. So yeah, I've got in, things like Mass Hysteria and Light Bomb and ways to clear boards and all that, Spirit Lash. These aren't really milkshakey cards, right? They're just board clears. But I gotta keep in the cool plays, right? Like, you can't run a milkshake deck without having the sweet plays. So you got to be able to do things like, Seance their minion or something like that. Youthful Brewmaster back your Draconid Operative, get another one of their cards. Yeah. Brewmaster back your Bomber, like all that kind of stuff. You need those things in there as well to make it truly milkshakey. So, yeah, super fun. The one thing that's awkward that is not in there anymore that used to be in there was the Potion of Madness. I still have the Shadow Madness, but I found that the Potion of Madness was a little too specific, and oftentimes I wasn't able to get it off, so I kept the Shadow Madness. So, you can Shadow Madness and screw things back too. That's another sweet one.
So I'm gonna defend the board clears in the milkshake deck because you have to survive long enough to get those Archbishop Benedictus cards, right? So that makes it extra milkshakey.
That's true. Yeah, like it's the whole point is that I drink your milkshake, I drink it up. So I play with your deck and I beat you with it. Yeah. But I can't beat aggroed by doing that. So I gotta like get to the point where then I'm Cabal Shadow Priesting like one of their sweet minions and stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Get that Archbishop Benedictus plays. Love him.
It's like if you didn't have those board clears, it'd be like if you went and you got your milkshake and you had it and you started to put the straw in and then some like pirate just came along and just smashed it on the ground. Yeah. Like, I was gonna have a nice milkshake, man.
No milkshake. Pirates hate milkshakes. That's a true fact.
Exactly. But yeah, it's fun. People always tweet me wondering what the deck list looks like now. I always will come up with a new version every time expansion comes out. It's getting harder and harder because they keep printing more milkshakey cards.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That should just inspire you to make a non-Reno variant. It's just like, wow, shoot, I need to fit more.
That's why we need a format akin to Commander or EDH.
Yeah.
Give me a 60 card singleton deck. I can milkshake everything.
The one time I'll be like, I don't need it. I don't need that format.
It's like, man, your ideas no. This one we're gonna just put on. We're gonna indefinitely put it on the back burner.
I only say that because every time Commander gets brought up and I mention that I'm not a fan, Dills and I's mutual friend Azixa will message me going, "Come on, man, come on." You're doing it wrong.
It's actually technically the most popular format in Magic right now.
It's so fun.
Commander. That's crazy that happened.
It doesn't surprise me. I always think
it'd just be standard, but no, it's the most played format.
I'm frequently wrong, so that doesn't surprise me.
It just surprised me when I found that fact out. I was listening to the Command Zone podcast, and they're like, "Yeah, this is the most popular format." I'm like, "What?
Really?
How did this happen?"
Do you want to know why?
Sure.
It's because everyone, like, that's the only format you could do the super big degenerate stuff that you can't do because it takes 400,000 mana.
Sure. Yeah. And you also need like 15 turns to draw it all. And
it's slow enough. You got to play all these big, all the crazy, like, steel Hellkites and all the cool stuff you want to do in Magic.
And everybody in a game of EDH is essentially not trying to kill each other because they're just trying to get to their big thing.
It's a gentleman's duel, except you take 700 steps instead of 10 paces.
Mm-hmm.
Although sometimes it is like you're playing with 6 people that are all playing Mechathune. They're just kind of playing solitaire. Everyone's like, I'm doing my own thing. All right, you play your thing. I'll do my thing.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I got all my things. You're dead. Everyone's dead now.
One of us wins. Yay, fun game.
We should have just done a forced Mechathune tournament for the last taco. The only decks that are allowed are Mechathune decks. Go.
I got some people requesting a whiz bang tournament for the next taco. I was like, if they would improve those deck lists, I think it'd be sweet.
There's like a couple okay ones, and the rest are just like, ooh.
There's that no win condition shaman deck.
I mean, let me
You end up getting that one. You're like, no.
let me put it this way, tech audience. There's nothing stopping you, the tech community, from putting on your own Wizbang tournament.
There you go.
True.
There's nothing stopping you. We will be more than happy to promote it on this podcast. Set up a battle fight. We will pimp the hell out of it.
Yep.
I don't want to put one on myself.
Nah.
So, but yeah, again, links to all of these deck lists in the show notes. Go to amove.tv/DAC, find the episode 302 post, click on the show notes link at the bottom, and boom, there you go. You got them right.
By the
there.
way, we also did link in the show notes the resources we were asking Saucy about earlier. So the tempo meta snapshot is in there, as well as just the HS replay, like what their version of it looks like. So
yeah, you're gonna have to do some
looking
digging.
for the good decks.
They are not archetyped, so. But you can at least see things like mulligan win rates and whatnot, which I have become surprisingly dependent on when learning new decks, at least in standard. So
It's important though. Like mulligans are, I think that's especially in WoW. Like mulligans are so important.
Yeah, it's one of the like underappreciated reasons why pros are better than everybody else.
Yeah.
They know what cards they're looking for, and sometimes it's a 6-drop, and you're like, yeah, I should be looking for this specific card and keeping it. And a lot of people are like, no, I look for everything that costs 1, 2, and 3.
I can. I'll give you. This is going to be the last hot tip for if you want to play Big Priest. A really cool mulligan thing. So if you're playing Big Priest and you're against Odd Warrior, you want to keep Yasarj in your opening hand.
Oh,
because you never want to have. You want to have like 1, maybe 2 threats out, and you don't want to pull all your threats out of the deck. So Yasarj you actually want to have in your opening hand.
I see. So you don't Barnes out the Yasarj and then get all your. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Kind of the weird mulligan things.
Dude, you know what was really cool that I discovered? Well, cool, but also super frustrating. It's not quite as broken as the call double Molten Giant, but the Master's call when you're just running the Barnes and the Yasharaj, and then you just discover Barnes every time, and then guess what? It happens on turn 3. So then
crazy.
on turn 4,
get that Barnes, and then everyone on Reddit gets mad. So
I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, he played it, and I was like, he's discovering. Wait, why are there only 2 cards?
Oh no!
Oh, my day is ruined.
Now.
Yeah,
my day is ruined. It's over. Before we move in and take an email and wrap it up, Saucy, where do you land on Barnes? You want to see him nerfed?
I would like to see him changed. I think the coolest change that I've heard to him is that they summon like a 1/1 quote unquote actor of the minion, so that when that minion dies and gets resurrected, it comes back as a 1/1 version. I think that'd be kind of cool, because I don't think that Barnes itself is what is like degenerate in a Big Priest. I think Big Priest is what's degenerate in Big Priest. Where I went to prove a point. I did a whole week of Big Priest, and the first few nights I went 24 wins with the deck, and only 3 games I even played Barnes. And it's just like, it's really, really good in the deck, but I don't think it's what breaks the deck. So I think
2 mana resurrect and 4 mana resurrect.
And if they came back as 1/1s instead of, getting a 8/8 version, or your statues are now a 1/1 statue, that's not as crazy, I think
so that would literally take Barnes out of the deck, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I think it would. Yeah, because you'd play it maybe in like Big Rogue.
Yeah, Big Rogue, you could still play it.
Yeah, because Big Rogue does things like, gets these sweet battle or death rattles and stuff like that then pull more minions out of the hand. That would seem like it would work there, but you'd probably just run the Shadow Essence and stuff like that to get out minions.
Because then it like you could still do fun things with the card and other decks, but it doesn't feel as bad as, just losing because they res their Lich King 300 times on turn 4. Yeah. Like it's crazy.
What just annoys me about the card is, I think that's a fantastic version of a nerf. What annoys me about the card in its current state is that the game is sometimes just over on turn 4, right? So I'm like, if it happened on turn 6, I'd be okay with it. Yeah. But if it's going to continue to happen on coin turn 3 or turn 4, it's just really frustrating, because you just feel like, wow, I didn't play a game of Hearthstone, did I?
So true.
Yeah.
Well, before we take an email, I want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. This is the best way to support the podcast, everyone. It's essentially an opt-in subscription. If you're just like, I would love to pay $1 an episode. First of all, thank you for having that thought. Every podcaster wishes every listener had that thought. But Patreon lets you do that. So you can head on over to patreon.com/TAC, and you can opt in to subscribe to the Angry Chicken and support us that way, whether it's $1 an episode or a lot more. There's a lot of folks over there supporting us, and we really appreciate it. And some of our more recent patrons are Brandon H. and Kenny H. And we'd like to say thank you very much for the support, you two.
Mm-hmm. You also get access to our tech Discord server, and you're going to get our strategy section decks a week before everybody else.
Yes, except this week, because the wild theme came together at the 11th hour, because there was family emergencies, there was traveling to other countries.
Yeah, but in general, the way it'll work is and so next week, the deck list will be posted there.
Yeah, are we doing Wall Priest? Are we sticking with Wall Priest?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's just the most popular deck right now.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet, so.
No.
I mean, we mentioned it last week in passing, but we didn't do a deep dive. So
we got a deep dive. It's
okay.
Friggin' good.
Also within that Discord, you get access to the questions channel where you can just skip the inbox entirely and ask questions directly, and also get questions into the strategy segment for decks specifically. So go check it out, patreon.com/TAC. And now let's take a question.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com, or, as we just mentioned, drop them in the Patreon Discord. Bites did exactly that. This comes from our patron question Discord, and asks, if Hearthstone implemented an amateur or pro league format, how would you like to see it function?
It's an interesting one.
It's a loaded question, but we've also been saying we want more formats the entire episode, so we should probably put our money where our mouth is.
Well,
Right.
so the Dills Hearthstone League, I'll just explain how that is run, is we essentially do an 8-week Swiss tournament. So you play one match a week, you get matched up Swiss style. So if you're 5-0 and someone else is 5-0, you will be playing each other, right? And it just kind of ends up separating people out. And then at the end, we take the top 8 people and they play a double elimination tournament. And it works pretty well. It's been working for 7 seasons of it now. So do that on a larger scale, it probably work pretty well. I like the idea of a league style thing where I just have a match each week and I just need to get it done by a certain day.
Yeah.
Rather than having to log in and do, 14 hours of Hearthstone, which I think is one of the things that keeps me out of playing a lot of tournaments, is just a long, grindy day. So, yeah, if there was a bigger version of that, I would love it. So I would definitely join. I know there's other people who do stuff similar to this. I know Day9 has a gaming league he does that's not just Hearthstone, but it's like PUBG and Fortnite and other stuff. I think they do Dota or League of Legends, all that kind of stuff. So, I just like the idea of once a week I have a best of 5 ban one deck match that I can just kind of look forward to throughout the week. And it kind of breaks up my ladder play a little bit with something different,
Yeah, I like that idea. And if it was built into the game, if you had a weekly match, you could sign up for leagues based on time zones or time periods. Because I know that's one thing that is tough for when people do a league and they're like, hey, you have to play against this guy and he's in Eastern time and you're in Mountain time, and you're trying to line things up. That'd be pretty cool. I would love to see something like this, just because I know there's a lot of people that would love to dip their toes into, tournament play, because it is a really cool way to play the game, and it's different, being able to ban a class and being able to build a lineup. That's really fun, and it's daunting, just jumping into it and signing up for Battlefy and doing all that and going against all these people who may just roll you over. So it'd have to somehow match make again. There'd have to be different types of leagues based on if it's your card collection, or somehow they could do that would be pretty sweet too.
Yeah, it'd be hard to imagine it in the client, but it'd be sweet if you could just be these number of players are ready to play right now.
Yeah.
You want to play your weekly match? And I'm like, yeah. And it just kind of randomly cues me against somebody else. And now we ban and then we play. And you're like, cool, your match is done for the week. We'll see you next week,
Yes.
Yeah, I still would like to see, like, even if it's not like a proper like league with competitive fashion, I still would like to see just a best of format. It's been a long time since I mentioned it. I know I harped on it like years ago, but if you implemented some sort of best of three, you could have bans, and you could still just have a random queue up like ladder where players just decide, all right, I have my 4 decks. I know there's one ban. Let's go. Just pair me up with someone else who has 4 decks ready. You make you have your ban phase in the beginning, like almost like a MOBA. Just a ban screen comes up. Here's their decks. Here's your decks. You pick one to ban. You see what they ban. Then you decide what you're going to play in your first round and go.
That'd be awesome.
I would love to see something like that.
If Brawliseum was a thing, because I kind of feel like, in a way, things like the arena leaderboard are like their version of a league, you know? If you had Brawliseum, you could have like a Brawliseum leaderboard and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of like groups players together so they can kind of see where they lie compared to other people and stuff like that.
Totally. I'd like to see a single deck format that had a best of 3 with a sideboard. That'd be kind of interesting too. We've never played with sideboards in Hearthstone. Like, or technically it's always a sideboard because you can always change whatever the hell you want. But I would like it a little more restricted.
Yeah.
By the way, the other cool thing that could be done without a huge amount of stuff is if there were like guilds or groups types of things in Hearthstone. Like, think about Diablo when you see yourself not only on this global leaderboard of, you know, how well you're doing in rifts, but you see how well you're doing against just the 10 people in your little Diablo guild, right? Like, it'd be kind of cool to just not only see like my ladder placement against everybody in the world, but what's my ladder placement against like my 10 friends? And we've decided that we're competitive with each other.
I'm always hesitant to suggest it because we've gone this far and we've never seen anything like it. But I would like to see a real draft or like a real arena, like with X amount of players where you're pulling from a limited card pool. You know, something of that nature would be really cool to see. And obviously it's like pie in the sky. We've never seen anything even remotely close to that in Hearthstone. So who knows how much work it would take to even create. But
it's difficult because of the class system as compared to the the color wheel, you know?
Yes. Oh, for sure. It's definitely, it would be difficult, but
I almost feel like the sealed format is kind of the perfect way to do a limited thing.
Even if you had something like Brawliseum though, like where you went in with predetermined decks and it was, you've got 10 of your buddies, you can lose this many times and we're going to keep going, you know. Again, sorry guys, I've been playing auto chess. It's on the brain, but going in with like 8 of my buddies until there's only one of us standing via some sort of rule set would be really cool in Hearthstone.
Oh
yeah, I agree.
The other day for my birthday, we went to my buddy's house to watch the Super Bowl and play pool, and like 5 of the dudes from my pool team were there, and we all just ran a little mini tournament, right? And obviously, like we've heard like the Yang Woos and stuff in the past say like this is what they kind of envision the tournament mode to be, is like a way to just play with just your buddies. And even if it was just stripped down to that version, it'd still be better than what we have now, which is nothing. Because it was just like, we're all sitting around playing pool. We're like, we're competitive. I want to play against you guys. I want to know who's the winner. And then we did that. And it's like, you just can't really do that in Hearthstone without going outside of the client and getting all these other things, which just complicates the matter and makes it really annoying.
Yeah, even something like that. If you're a streamer and you wanted to play with your subscribers or something, you could have like a little quick tournament with something like that. Would be sweet.
Oh my god, I've talked about doing this so many times when I'm streaming, and then every single time the logistics just make me go, nah, never mind. I'm just gonna keep streaming the ladder.
Too hard, never mind.
I just remembered my one thing that I wanted to change about the game. Have you ever, like, if you're trying to gift things to people, having to be friends with them for a week or whatever before you can gift them packs is
we run into that.
Yes. It is the worst.
We are currently running into that.
Dealing with that.
If you are a winner from the most recent taco and you haven't gotten your packs yet, it's because I'm waiting for that friend timer to time out.
You gotta accept Garrett into your life,
which it may have. I actually haven't checked. Sorry, I was in another country. But yeah, that would be wonderful. But yeah, thanks for the question, Bites. I love these kind of questions. I love kind of brainstorming. So thank you for giving us more reasons to brainstorm, because Ixar clearly didn't give us enough of an excuse.
So. I mean, the thing is, this is what we do on this show: is we pontificate on the things that we wish they would do.
Large Brandon in the chat room
We
says,
understand the reality is that they're probably not going to do any of this.
"Yeah." Large Brandon in the chat room says, "Sounds like you guys want Magic Arena, but with Hearthstone." That's exactly what we want. That's
Sure.
exactly what we want. I like Hearthstone. Don't tell me to just go play Magic Arena. I like Hearthstone. I would like to have as many options for formats as that game has, but with this card game. Like, I don't know. I get frustrated at times, and it comes through on the show because Hearthstone could rule the world. They could
Really
be
good.
the only card game, and they just seem disinterested in being the most successful card game in the history of human existence.
We don't need that level of success.
Yes, and that's
Like I've said, it feels sometimes like they're scared to pull the trigger on things. Like they don't want to disturb the equilibrium that they have right now, which is
and yet we
3
have
expansions a year and standard and wild.
a game that we know has very few players. Heroes of the Storm has more ways to play than Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So,
Weird, huh?
it's also a bad example right now because certain modes actually have some of the longest queues ever, and it's insane. But Hearthstone, it's not even that close. We still know an insane number of people play this game. It can support extra formats. So please, let 2019 be the year of new formats.
Yeah. Just go anytime you're like, is Hearthstone a dead game? Just head on over to HS Replay and look at just their recorded last 7 days, 6.5 million games. And that's just the people who downloaded Deck Tracker and are playing on their PC, not all the people playing on their phone, their iPad, their whatever, or the people on PC who don't have a freaking Deck Tracker.
Yep.
That's a lot of freaking games.
Yeah. That's just the slightly more hardcore fans of the game. That's all that is. And that is a mind-boggling number of players.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, I know Apex Legends got 25 million players in 7 days. That's cool. Actually, it's very cool. I love that game.
It is very cool.
But Hearthstone still has an absolute butt ton of players, and it can support it. So, anyways, keep those questions coming. tagpodcast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, drop us a question on the patron Discord. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. If you dig the show and you want to help us out for free, you can always drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. It helps us find new listeners. We also want to thank our producers. Thank you, Declan H. and Sean C. for the generous support. The whole back catalog of episodes is available on youtube.com/amovetv or the amove.tv website. And you can usually catch us live Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here at twitch.tv. Or sorry, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm forgetting my own time.
Same thing.
This says 3 p.m. for some reason, which has never been the case, so I don't know why that's there.
It's 3 p.m. my time.
Yeah, 3 p.m.
I don't know
Dill's
how that
time, 4 p.m. Garrett, Joss time, twitch.tv/amovetv. Join us live, won't you? Saucy Mailman as our guest this week. Where can everybody find you doing Hearthstone podcasts and also tearing it up on the Wild Ladder?
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me, I stream 5 nights a week. Just twitch.tv/saucymailman. I'm always playing random things on Wild Ladder. And if you want to follow Into the Wild podcast, you can find us just everywhere. Into the Wild HS on Twitter, iTunes, Podbean, all those places.
Rad. Dills,
And you're at Saucy Mailman on Twitter as well, right?
Yep, and just at Saucy Mailman on Twitter.
spelt correctly.
Yes.
No missing vowels or leet speak here.
No crazy numbers. XX Saucy Mailman, XX underscore. None of that.
Yeah. For some reason, followed by Gogeta Roth. I don't know why.
Because that's the way. That's all the cool kids are doing it. Honestly.
Willie Dills, where can everybody find you?
You check me out. I stream on twitch.tv/WillieDills. And I think this month I will be focusing quite a bit on Wild. Just because last month just got my blood pumping when it comes to Wild. So it's just kind of, where my head's at right now. So come check me out there. And also on Twitter at WillieDills. And if you like wrestling, check out the 1-900 Wrestling Podcast. Find it anywhere podcasts are found.
Rad. I do like wrestling. I'm a little out of the loop. Haven't watched in a while, but I do like wrestling.
It's in a good place right now. There's a lot of fun things happening.
Well, Katie and I have been struggling to find things to watch, so it seems like it's time to get back on the wrestling train.
Get on the wrestle train.
Wrestle train.
Well, I think that there's going to be some really good wrestling pretty close to you pretty soon because AEW, All Elite Wrestling, who's signing up like all the sweetest indie wrestlers right now. They're based out of Jacksonville, so
That's not that close.
Well,
Just
sure, but it's
FYI.
Florida.
Florida is a long state.
No, it's all
They'll
one
do
place.
more
It's all
shows
one-
in Florida, I'm sure, not just
Yeah, I would
Jacksonville.
rather go to Orlando, where NXT is based out of, and
Oh, yeah, well, yeah,
that's a lot.
there's that
It's a
too.
much
That's
shorter
actually-
drive.
That's
I didn't
that's
know
even
all,
sweeter.
all wrestling's from Florida. I learned something.
Florida loves wrestling, dude. Holy
We do.
crap.
It's you're not wearing a shirt all the time. You can't do that in a snowy environment.
That's true.
Dude,
That's
the
true.
oil dudes up, put them in little panties, and have them fight. Oh, I'm in.
You
I'm in,
can't
let's do
oil a shirtless man in sub-zero climate. Okay, it just doesn't
No.
work.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
They basically yank those dudes directly off Florida beaches, and then they just have.
You look
You wanna
fantastic.
wrestle? Get over here and do a wrestle.
How do you feel about spandex? I'm on Twitter saying absurd things like that over at Garrett Art, 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. I trust you know how to spell art. I also have a graphic design portfolio over at newmoonart.com. All of the shows like this one are at amove.tv, but I would like to spotlight one podcast in particular, and that is because Kyle and I accidentally started an Apex Legends podcast. It's called Enter the Apex, and you can go find it wherever podcasts are found. I even broke down, listeners, and submitted it to Stitcher. I hate Stitcher, but you asked for it, so I did it. So there you go.
That's true love. That's true love.
Yeah. We'll see how long it takes for Stitcher to break this particular podcast feed and never fix it. So, anyways, go check it out. I know the Apex wherever podcasts can be found. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Lots of deck lists over at amove.tv/TAC for you. Go check it out. Find the show notes links below. We'll see you next week for episode 303 of The Angry Chicken. I believe Jocelyn will be back. But until then, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes.